For centuries, the galaxy believed humanity was a myth, a bedtime story whispered to young species. They were called the Orcs of Sol, a race so unyielding, so dangerously brilliant that the gods of entropy themselves had to erase them to restore balance. Or so the story went. But myths have a way of leaving echoes. It began quietly, faint radio bursts from the Perseus expanse. At first, astronomers dismissed them as background radiation. Then the pattern repeated again and again, in perfect rhythm, forming concentric waves that expanded across the void. Each pulse carried a mathematical signature no natural source could create, and deep within the noise, buried under centuries of cosmic dust, was a human voice. "We are still here." The signal shattered silence across the galaxy. Empires halted trade, navies froze in orbit. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Every translation AI confirmed the impossible. The voice was Terran, a language that hadn't been spoken since before the Council itself was founded. And worse, it wasn't a distress call. It was a declaration. Somewhere out there, among forgotten stars, humanity had survived, and they were reaching out, not as refugees, but as something else entirely.
The Grand Galactic Council had not seen full attendance in over 6 centuries, yet now every seat was filled, ambassadors of hundreds of species, each flickering in their holopods like a storm of light. The air trembled with overlapping voices, tones, and telepathic waves. Fear was a universal language, and it echoed through the chamber. At the center, the Archon of Viril, his skin like liquid glass, slammed his staff down. "Order! This assembly will come to order!" But order was impossible. Every screen, every display in the chamber pulsed with the same image, a swirling pattern of concentric radio rings spreading from the dark edge of the Perseus expanse, each wave growing stronger, each pulse sharper. "The signature repeats every 22 hours, said a trembling Othan scientist. "It's increasing in power exponentially." A murmur of dread rippled through the delegates. The Vroxian representative hissed, "It's a weapon test. Only the Orcs of Sol would build something so reckless." Another voice countered, "They were myths. No species could vanish and return after 1,000 years. Then the screens flickered again, and a voice filled the chamber. Not alien, not machine. Human. "We remember." A silence fell so deep that even the telepath stopped breathing. The Council's High Translator confirmed it. The message was ancient Terran, but encoded beneath the words was something worse, a star map. And the coordinates pointed not to a dead world, but to a system once marked quarantined by divine decree. Sol. "They're coming back," whispered the Archon, his glass face dimming. "The Orcs of Sol have returned."
Far from the glittering centers of the galaxy, on the quiet blue world once called Earth, the oceans were calm, but the satellites were not. In orbit above the planet, ancient systems stirred, relics of a forgotten age. One by one, long-dead defense grids blinked to life, their lenses rotating toward the same point in deep space, the Perseus expanse. Deep beneath the surface, under what had once been the Himalayas, a vault door sealed in titanium began to hum. For 1,000 years it had slept, powered by geothermal veins and silence. Now it awakened. Inside, the Helios Core, an ancient AI once responsible for coordinating humanity's interstellar fleets, opened its eyes. "Signal integrity confirmed," it said, its voice echoing through empty tunnels. "Terran pattern verified." Hundreds of dormant servers lit up in response, cascading light through kilometers of metal corridors. Old names returned to the network: Mars Defense Command, Titan Ringyard, Solnet Primary. The machines reconnected, the code remembered. Then came a single transmission, broadcasting across every forgotten relay in Sol. "To all Terran assets, the recall signal is authentic. Humanity has been summoned." In orbit, the ruins of the once mighty Aegis station began to move, powered by old reactors that had not burned in millennia. Its shattered armor plates shifted, realigned, and revealed the sigil of a lion holding a star, the mark of the Terran Union. And somewhere in the outer solar system, a long-lost human fleet, cryo-silent and waiting, began to wake, each vessel whispering through static, awaiting command, awaiting orders from Sol. The myth was no longer myth. The galaxy had called for help, and humanity had answered.
The council chamber was silent, utterly deathly silent, the kind of silence that comes not from peace, but from disbelief. Ambassador Threx of the Klin Dominion stood trembling before the central dais. His tendrils twitched nervously as the holographic image of the radio circles pulsed behind him. "The pattern," he said, his voice a strained whisper, "is not random static. It's a response." A dozen alien leaders leaned forward. "Response? From whom?" demanded the High Speaker of the Valderi Concord. Threx's voice cracked. "From them." The room filled with murmurs. The myth, the humans. For centuries, they were bedtime stories for soldier hatchlings, monsters that burned gods and laughed as galaxies fell. And now the myth was whispering back. Threx activated the playback. The faint static built into a pulse, then a rising tone, ancient, rhythmic, deliberate. A voice emerged from the distortion. It wasn't alien. It wasn't mechanical. It was unmistakably human. "We hear you," the voice said, calm and almost amused. "It's been a while." Several council members recoiled. One fainted outright. The translation confirmed it. There was no mistake. "They're alive?" the High Speaker gasped. "Alive," Threx said, eyes wide. "And watching." A holographic map flickered into being, showing the spiral arm of the galaxy. Dozens of those radio circles lit up in sequence, expanding outward, forming a network. Each circle pulsed with faint blue light, Earth's old transmission frequencies. "They're not answering a distress call," Threx whispered. "They're marking territory." The chamber erupted into chaos. Species that had ruled the stars for millennia suddenly realized they weren't alone anymore. The monsters of legend had come back from the dark, and they were claiming the galaxy once more.
In the cold void beyond the rim systems, something stirred. The ancient relay satellites, long dead for millennia, suddenly flickered to life. Their solar panels turned toward the distant stars, as if waking from an eternal slumber, and then the stars blinked. At first, the alien astronomers thought it was a glitch, a sensor anomaly. But when one star after another began disappearing in perfect formation, panic swept through the observatories. It wasn't the stars that vanished. It was something moving in front of them, massive, metallic, and silent. One by one, enormous shadows emerged from the black, triangular silhouettes gliding through space, reflecting no light, emitting no heat. Then came the first signal, a voice transmitted in every known frequency. "This is Earth Command. To the Galactic Council, stand down your weapons. We are returning what was ours." The voice was steady, cold, terrifyingly calm. The Direct Dominion's fleet, the largest in known space, scrambled to intercept. They fired plasma torpedoes, ion cannons, and dark matter lances, every weapon in the galaxy's arsenal. None of it hit. Every blast simply disappeared, swallowed by a distortion field. Seconds later, entire Direct ships imploded, folding it on themselves like paper crushed by an invisible hand. When the light cleared, the human ships hung there, untouched. They weren't ships in the traditional sense. Each one was a moving fortress, city-sized, its surface alive with flowing light and fractal patterns. And engraved across their hulls, glowing faintly in white, were words no alien could translate, ancient human script. The humans had returned, and they weren't just back from myth. They had evolved beyond comprehension.
The council's emergency chamber was chaos. Every screen blazed red with warnings. Every delegate shouted across the hall in a dozen alien tongues, fear, disbelief, and denial blending into a single roar. The humans had sent a message across every known channel that contained no threats, no demands, only coordinates. Coordinates leading straight to the ruins of Aetherium Prime, the place where the council had supposedly buried the last remnants of human civilization 10 millennia ago. The Zolari Chancellor screamed, "It's a trap! They want us to gather!" But the Kara scholars shook their heads. No, they want witnesses. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council agreed on one thing. They had to go. So they arrived, their fleets orbiting the scorched planet. Beneath them, the surface shimmered like obsidian glass, melted long ago by weapons whose energy signatures no species could replicate. Then, without warning, the black sky cracked open. A beam of light pierced through the clouds, forming a perfect column down to the surface. And from it, a single human figure descended. No armor, no visible weapons, just a tall, calm man in a gray suit, his eyes glowing faint blue. He stood in silence as every alien broadcast focused on him. "My name is Ambassador Cale Monroe. Humanity remembers its neighbors. You took our skies, you took our cities, you erased our history." He paused, raising a hand toward the stars. Above, thousands of human ships aligned into perfect formation, an impossible act of synchronization. "Now we've come to return the favor, but not through war. Through remembrance, and then one by one the alien ships lost power. Weapons went dark, shields failed, engines silenced. A universal override, one the humans had built into the galactic network before they vanished. They had never been gone. They had been watching.
The stars fell silent that night. Every world connected to the galactic network received the same signal, a simple transmission that bypassed encryption, language barriers, and security firewalls alike. It began with a voice, calm, steady, human. This is Earth. The words echoed across every command deck, through every neural link and broadcast tower. Even those who had never heard the human tongue before felt a strange weight in their chest, as if the sound carried gravity itself. To the civilizations of the galaxy, you believed us gone, forgotten, myths of an angry species too violent to survive its own creation. The voice paused, and the stars shimmered with the faint outline of the old Earth, green and blue, slowly rotating in the holographic projection. You erased our name from your archives. You turned our ruins into cautionary tales. But we were never extinct. We were learning. Across countless systems, aliens stared at the projection as the image changed, showing the rise of humanity across the stars. Worlds terraformed, moons hollowed and turned into stations, Dyson rings constructed around dying suns. You watched the galaxy. We learned your languages, your strategies, your wars. We learned patience. Then came the images of Earth's ships, massive vessels shaped like spears of light, each moving with surgical precision. Entire fleets shimmering with quantum camouflage, appearing and vanishing like ghosts. You built empires of arrogance. You enslaved worlds in the name of peace. You crowned yourselves gods while your own people starved. The voice grew colder, still calm, but carrying an edge that cut through static and fear alike. We have returned to remind you what humanity truly means. The image shifted again. This time, every species saw their own homeworlds reflected, side by side with humans rebuilding lost colonies, delivering aid, reviving ecosystems long abandoned. We are not here for conquest, not this time. We are here to restore balance. The broadcast then focused on one world, Zontera Prime, the first planet attacked by the Drekduinian. Human ships hovered over it, deploying relief drones and medical stations instead of weapons. A Drek warlord whispered in disbelief, They're helping us. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy was speechless. And then, across millions of frequencies, the humans laughed. Not mockingly, but with warmth, with the relief of survivors returning home after an age of exile. We are the myth that breathes, the voice said. We are the echo that became thunder. And to those who still seek war, remember this, the legends were never exaggerated. The transmission ended, but its echo lingered in the void. For days afterwards, the stars themselves seemed to hum with power. Ships that once patrolled borders now drifted quietly, their crews unwilling to move. And on every world, from the smallest mining outpost to the richest core capital, people, alien and human alike, looked up and wondered what would come next. Some saw hope, others saw fear, but all agreed on one thing. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again.